So in this video, we're going to be talking about the Pythagorean Theorem. Now, it's one of those topics that when you say it out loud, you're like, whoa, that's a really big word. But once you know what it is, you realize how easy it is to work with. So the Pythagorean Theorem allows us to find a missing side length to any right triangle. So remember, a right triangle has a right angle, and a triangle is three sides. So as long as the shape makes a triangle that has a right angle, you're good to go. All right, so a couple things that we need to know about this right triangle is its names and its terms. So first thing we have to know is the two lines that make this right angle are called legs. All right, so we have leg 1 and we have leg 2. And understand, these legs represent two different letters. Okay, one of these letters is the letter A, and the other letter is the letter B. Now understand, it does not matter which one is which. I could have called this one A and this one B. Notice he's 1 and he's 2, but I reversed the letters. That doesn't matter as long as you understand A and B always make the 90-degree angle. A and B always make the 90-degree angle. Okay. The last component that we're dealing with is always across from the 90-degree angle. So whatever line segment is across from this 90-degree angle is called the hypotenuse. And we spell hypotenuse, hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is always the letter C. So the letter C is always across from the 90-degree angle, and our legs are always what makes the 90-degree angle. Okay, once we know the sections of this, now we're going to be dealing with a theorem. A theorem is a formula. It's the guide. It's the piece that we plug into. So we need to note that Pythagoras, okay, he created this and he said any triangle that is a right triangle, this will be true. If you take one of the legs and you square it, and you take the other leg and you square it, and you add those two pieces together, you're going to create the hypotenuse squared. So the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is the piece that we're going to use throughout this entire lesson. Okay, so understand a squared plus b squared equals c squared is used for when I have a right triangle. So if I make that right triangle, I am using this theorem. Okay? So now there's two ways we can do this. I can be missing the hypotenuse and use the two legs to solve for it, or I can be missing one of the legs and use the leg and hypotenuse. So that's what we're going to work on next. Okay? All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to solve for the hypotenuse. Okay, all right, so notice again, I'm solving for the hypotenuse because I am missing the segment that's across from the 90-degree angle. So C is what's missing. All right, so my first step is we're going to start with this magical formula of fun. So I'm going to write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And now we're going to fill it in. Now again, A and B make the 90-degree angle. It does not matter which one you want to label which, but I can put A and B here if that helps me out. So I'm going to fill this in and I'm going to write 24 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared. Okay, and now I'm going to have my handy dandy calculator because once that's filled in, it's all calculator work from there. Okay, so a couple things that we need to remember with the calculator, okay, is because all of this is on one side, I could plug it in. So we have 24. Notice my squared button is right here next to the X. I could use the caret, but no need. I can push the squared. I can push the plus, and then 7 squared. And then when I push equals, I get 625 equals c squared. Now again, I have to bring it down exactly as is. Now if I wanted to do 24 squared equals and get this as 576 and 7 squared is 49 equals c squared, I could totally have this line, but just note your calculator does allow for you to do it. Okay, now this is the step that you guys usually typically miss the most. Okay, please remember the opposite of squared is not division. The opposite of squared is square root. The opposite of squared is square root. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Okay, so in my calculator, I'm going to type in second x squared, because notice it's the opposite of squared. All right, and then I'm going to type in my 625 equals, so that says my hypotenuse is 25. My hypotenuse is 25. So my hypotenuse is 25 inches if these are its other two lengths. All right. Here is a problem that you can go ahead then and try. All right. So we have A equals 30. B is 40. Go ahead and pause the video if you want to try this on your own. All right, I'm now going to be disclosing the answer, so if you need to pause longer, please do so. All right, so this would have been 30 squared plus 40 squared equals c squared, and we would have had that c equals 50. All right, so if you did not get 2,500 equals c squared, make sure you are checking your calculations. All right, the last component of the Pythagorean theorem, okay, is if I am missing the leg. So we're going to do a problem of missing the leg real quick. All right, so here I have my pieces and parts. We have 12 centimeters, we have an unknown, and we have 15 centimeters. All right, remember he is across from the 90-degree angle, so he has to be C, which means he can be A or B. Typically, I like to lead with a number, so I always typically fill in A and solve for B, but that is completely up to you. So this would be 12 squared plus, I don't know, squared equals 15 squared. All right, now notice I'm not on the same side, so I cannot overload this calculator. All right, so I can do my 12 squared, and I get my 144, because 12 times 12 is 144, plus, I'm not exactly sure, equals, and 15 squared is 225. So now we're dealing with a two-step equation. All right, I need to subtract a leg from the hypotenuse to get this other leg's piece. So we're going to subtract 144 from both sides. Equals. So this sum unknown squared is 225 minus 144. And we get 81. And again, the opposite of squared is squared root. So the square root of 81 is then 9. So that means that this has to be 9 centimeters. Okay. Understand, there's a lot of different ways I can plug this into my calculator. I could have done 15 squared minus 12 squared and then did the square root of that answer. That will allow it to happen, but this would be the most formal work that takes place. All right, and then last but not least is word problems. 9 times out of 10, when you see a Pythagorean theorem problem, it is in real world word problem form. All right, and I recommend anytime that you see words, draw a picture. Okay, so I have a painter. He has a 24-foot ladder, and he's going to paint a house. For safety reasons, this ladder has to be placed 8 feet from the base of the house, which means it's leaning against the house, and the bottom of it has to be 8 feet away. To the nearest tenth, how high can this ladder safely reach? So if you're sitting here going, what? Okay, well, I am at a house, and an awesome house. Look at that house. Okay, it's kind of lopsided. Maybe my house is on a hill. All right, and I'm painting this house. So I've set up my ladder, all right? So my ladder is set up against the house so I can paint. My ladder is 24 feet long. My ladder is 24 feet long. And they are telling me that I have to be 8 feet away from the base of this. So now looking at what I drew, blue, green, and orange, notice I created a right triangle. Again, granted, I'm on a hill. According to this picture, we're going to pretend it's flat land. So the first question is, am I solving for a leg or am I solving for the hypotenuse? Well, put your little square in there. Because my square is right there, that means I'm solving for a leg. So because I don't know what this leg is, that's how I know where I need to plug in my information. Just because there's all these words doesn't change how I solve in any capacity. All right, so if I work through this problem, I would have my 8 squared, my distance away from the house, plus my unknown reaching height equals my 24-foot ladder squared. Okay. Again, a way I could do this in my calculator, so this would be kind of the shortcut way. All right, I know I have to subtract 8 squared from both sides to get them on the same side. So I'm going to plug into my calculator 24 squared minus the 8 squared equals. So this b squared equals 512. Please make sure you're bringing it down exactly. Do not lose this squared. So b has to equal, well, second squared of that answer, all right, was 22.627, dot, dot, dot. And they told me in my question I need the tenths place, which means that's where my 6 is. I look to the neighbor. So this height is 22.6 feet. That is how high the painter can paint.